Picture the last time you walked into a busy diner or maybe a neighborhood restaurant about 5 years ago. Really put yourself there.
Oh, yeah. It was usually a pretty intense environment.
Totally. You hear the host shouting over a noisy counter, trying to manage a wait list, scribbled on a clipboard. There's a phone ringing off the hook in the background that no one has the physical time to answer.
Right, because everyone is completely slammed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you look into the kitchen, you see servers frantically trying to decipher these messy, like grease-stained handwritten tickets hanging from a metal wire. It was chaotic, it was loud, and frankly, it was kind of stressful to just watch.
It was incredibly stressful. But, it's 2026 now, and the restaurant industry has quietly undergone a massive technological revolution. Those frantic days are fading fast. They're disappearing entirely.
Yeah.
And the fascinating part is that it is fundamentally changing the way you experience dining, whether you consciously realize it or not. I mean, the architecture of a restaurant has shifted from physical chaos to this sort of digital silence.
Which brings us to our focus today. We've got a comprehensive, step-by-step industry guide in front of us titled How to Automate Restaurant Orders in 2026.
It's a great source.
It really is. So our mission for this deep dive is to completely deconstruct this guide. We're going to look at exactly what this technology actually looks like, why it's no longer just a luxury reserved for massive fast food chains with bottomless budgets, and how everyday restaurants are using it simply to survive in an industry famous for, well, razor-thin margins.
Absolutely. Whether you're a small business owner looking to optimize your own operations or you're just someone grabbing a quick coffee on your lunch break, you really need to understand this.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this. Because when I first hear the phrase restaurant automation, my mind immediately goes to some retro-futuristic sci-fi movie.
Oh, sure, like the Jetsons or something.
Yeah. I picture like a humanoid robot with a little painted-on bow tie rolling out of the kitchen holding a plate of spaghetti.
Right, well, that's a fun visual, but completely disconnected from reality. There are no robot waiters in this blueprint.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, and that's an important distinction to make right away. This invisible tech ecosystem is what is actually reshaping your experience. Automation, in this 2026 context, is almost entirely about software.
Just software, right?
Exactly. It is a highly synchronized digital ecosystem designed to remove human error, route information instantly, and, dramatically speed everything up.
So let's break down that ecosystem. If I walk into a restaurant today, what are the actual layers operating around me? Like, how does this software physically manifest in the building?
So the guide breaks this down into 3 core pillars that, crucially, have to communicate with each other flawlessly.
Okay, 3 pillars.
The first pillar is the customer side. This is the entry point. It's where the order is actually generated.
Right, so the oven.
It could be a mobile app on your personal phone, a QR code sticker on your table, a self-service touchscreen kiosk near the entrance, or even an AI voice assistant taking your order at the drive-thru.
I have definitely noticed those kiosks taking over. You walk in, tap a few high-definition pictures of a burger, pay, and you are done. It completely kills the line at the counter.
It does. It's incredibly efficient.
But I'm curious about the drive-through voice AI. How does that actually work in practice? Because humans change their minds constantly mid-sentence. We say things like, I'll take a cheeseburger, actually make it a double, and hold the pickles.
Oh, that used to be the roadblock for voice AI. It really did. But the 2026 systems, they process natural human speech and intent instantly.
Wow, so they actually understand the pivot.
Yes, they don't just listen for keywords anymore. They understand context, they filter out background engine noise, and they can handle those mid-sentence corrections without freezing up or forcing you to repeat yourself.
That is wild. Okay, so that's pillar 1. The customer entry point.
Right. And pillar 2 is the POS, the point of sale system. You can think of this as the management brain of the operation.
The brain. Got it.
It receives the digital order, instantly updates the restaurant's inventory to reflect that, say, a burger bun and a patty were just sold, and tracks the financial transaction in real time.
Okay, so the order is in, the money is collected, and the inventory is updated, but the food still has to, actually be cooked.
Right. Which brings us to pillar 3, kitchen fulfillment. In the industry, this is usually called a KDS, or kitchen display system.
KDS, okay.
This is a series of rugged screens mounted right in front of the chefs. The order instantly populates on these screens without a single second of delay.
And it just lists the food.
No, it's way smarter than that. A smart KDS will route the cold items, like a salad, to the prep station, and the hot items, like a steak, to the grill station, timing them so they finish at the exact same moment.
Oh, wow. Okay, let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around the mechanics
Wow.
here. If I'm thinking about this like a biological system, it sounds exactly like a central nervous system.
That's a really good way to look at it.
Like the customer ordering app or the kiosk is like the sensory nerves picking up a signal, hey, I want a cheeseburger. The POS is the brain processing that signal. We have cheeseburgers in stock, and the customer is successfully paid.
Mm-hmm.
And then the KDS, the kitchen screen, is the muscle actually doing the physical work. Chef, grill the burger.
That is a phenomenal way to visualize it because it highlights that this isn't just one giant machine you buy from a catalog. What's fascinating here is how these completely separate software tools must integrate.
Right, they have to talk to each other.
Exactly. If your QR code menu on the table, your sensory nerve doesn't speak the exact same digital language as your POS brain, and then instantly fire that impulse to the kitchen display muscle,
Then it all breaks down.
the whole nervous system is paralyzed. If they aren't communicating in real time, you end up with dropped orders, angry customers waiting for food that the kitchen doesn't even know about, and just total operational chaos.
That makes total sense.
Mhm.
We've established the anatomy of this nervous system, but looking at the source material, there is a massive sense of urgency. Like the adoption rate of this technology in 2026 isn't a slow trickle, it's a flood.
It's everywhere.
So we need to look at why restaurants are rushing to implement this right now, rather than sticking to the old way of doing things.
It comes down to one brutal reality of the hospitality business: the margin game. The restaurant industry runs on notoriously tight profit margins.
Like how tight are we talking?
We're talking single digits in many cases. Even a tiny isolated inefficiency can wipe out an entire day's profit. So, first and foremost, automation eliminates errors and buys speed.
Because it skips the human translation part.
Exactly. Digital ordering completely kills the handwritten note. It kills the scenario where a server has to walk across the dining room, wait in line for an open POS terminal, and try to remember if you said no mayo or extra mayo before punching it in.
I've definitely been the victim of the wrong mayo order.
We all have. But this tech pushes the order from the customer's brain to the chef's screen in milliseconds.
Which directly translates to faster table turnover. The kitchen cooks the food faster, the customer eats faster, the table clears faster, and the restaurant can seat another paying party.
Precisely. And then there is the labor relief. Staffing and retention have been agonizing pain points for years. Automation fundamentally shifts your staff away from being mere order takers or, data entry clerks.
They aren't just punching buttons anymore.
Right. When a machine is handling the sheer volume of taking orders and processing credit cards, your human staff can reallocate their energy to food quality control, expediting, and actual hospitality, making sure the guest is genuinely enjoying their experience in the dining room.
I see the logic there. You're reallocating human energy to tasks that require empathy, which a machine can't fake. The guide also mentions a concept called the 24/7 salesman. What does that look like in practice?
It refers to the apps and the website integrations. When you automate, your digital storefront captures revenue even when the physical restaurant is dark and the doors are locked.
Oh, like scheduling orders ahead of time?
Yes. Customers sitting on their couch at midnight can schedule a pickup for their lunch break the next day, or place a massive catering order for an office party. You are never fundamentally closed for business.
I follow you, but there is one benefit mentioned in the source that I really have to push back on. It talks about smart upselling. The guide claims that automated menus naturally suggest extras, like expensive drinks or side items, and that this is a huge benefit because staff no longer have to awkwardly push these items.
Right, the algorithm does it.
But I get the psychology, but there's still a fine line between a helpful suggestion and digital harassment. How do these systems avoid annoying the customer to the point where they just abandon their cart entirely? Because people generally despise being sold to.
It is a delicate balance, for sure. But if we connect this to the bigger picture of user interface design, there is a massive psychological difference between interacting with a human being and a screen.
How so?
Well, when a server verbally interrupts your conversation to ask, do you want to add a side of loaded fries for $4? It can feel slightly confrontational, you might feel pressured, or you might reflexively just say no to get out of the interaction.
Yeah, I almost always say no just on instinct.
Exactly. But an algorithm on a screen operates differently. It uses subtle pacing. When you collect a burger, an AI gently suggests, This pairs perfectly with sweet potato fries and displays a beautiful, perfectly lit, high-definition photo.
I hear what you're saying. The visual does bypass a lot of our natural defenses.
It does. It feels less like a hard sales pitch and much more like a customized, helpful suggestion based on what you're already buying.
I am still a little wary of an algorithm tracking my cravings, but I have absolutely tapped add to cart on a glowing picture of a milkshake that I had zero intention of ordering when I walked in the door. I mean, it works.
It works incredibly well, and that is a secret weapon for these businesses. It noticeably increases the average check size without adding any friction. Again, in an industry with tight margins, casually adding $3 or $4 to 50% of your orders through an automated visual upsell is the literal difference between a restaurant surviving the winter or shutting down.
Okay, we've established that the benefits are powerful. Faster service, zero transcription errors, reallocated labor, and mathematically larger check sizes.
Yes.
But let's bring this down from the theoretical clouds to the actual concrete floor of a restaurant. If I own a neighborhood diner, how do I actually build this?
Yeah.
Because the guide gives us a very specific blueprint and names the actual software tools driving this ecosystem in 2026.
It does, and it emphasizes a crucial warning. You cannot just start buying software blind.
Right, don't just go adding random tools to your cart.
The first step on this blueprint is a rigorous audit. You have to analyze your current physical order flow to isolate your top 2 or 3 bottlenecks. Is your phone constantly ringing and distracting the bartender? Is there a line out the door just to order coffee? You have to diagnose the specific disease before you prescribe the digital medicine.
And once you know what is broken, the guide says the absolute non-negotiable next step is digitizing your menu. And it stresses this heavily.
Because it is the foundational database for everything that follows. You must build a master digital menu with exact prices, high-quality images, and meticulous customization rules, like ensuring a customer can't accidentally order a pizza with negative cheese.
Negative cheese, yeah, that would break things.
Right. This single digital menu becomes the DNA for your online orders, your kiosks, and your mobile apps. Everything pulls data from that one source.
That brings us to the software itself. The source breaks down the tech heavyweights running these POS systems, the brains of the operation, and it highlights Toast, Square, Lightspeed, and Oracle. But looking at this, they aren't just interchangeable brands. They serve completely different functions depending on the size of the restaurant.
Exactly. For example, the guide points out that Square is incredibly popular for smaller, independent coffee shops or food trucks. And the reason why is its simplicity.
It's super intuitive.
Square is a cloud-based software that can literally turn an off-the-shelf consumer iPad into a fully functioning cash register in about 5 minutes. The barrier to entry is virtually zero.
Whereas Toast, according to the guide, is much more of a heavy-duty ecosystem for full-service restaurants.
Yes. Toast uses proprietary hardware built specifically to withstand the grease, heat, and spills of a commercial kitchen. It is widely used in the U.S. because it has incredibly tight native integrations. The POS, the online ordering, and the kitchen display screens are all built by the same company, so they speak the exact same language out of the box.
And then for scale, the guide mentions Lightspeed, which provides deep data analytics for owners who have multiple locations and need to spot trends across different cities.
Very data heavy.
And Oracle MicroS, which handles the massive, complex infrastructure for global hotel chains and stadiums. So that is the in-house brain. But what about the online ordering platforms? Because the guide lists companies like Enatega, Olo, ChowNow, and Flipdish.
Right.
And it describes Enatega as an open source platform. Wait, open source. Does that mean a restaurant owner needs to hire a software developer to write custom code just to sell a sandwich online?
Well, not necessarily hire a full-time developer, but open source means the platform gives you the raw architectural code for an ordering app.
Wow.
You aren't just running a closed, rigid system. You can completely customize the look, the feel, and the routing of the app to fit your highly specific business model.
Oh, I see.
It is incredibly appealing for ambitious startups that want total control over their tech without paying licensing fees forever.
That clarifies it. And for independent restaurants that want something ready to go, the guide highlights ChowNow, which focuses on first-party ordering to avoid commission fees, and Flipdish in Europe, which leans into built-in loyalty programs.
Exactly.
But let's look at the financial reality here. Let's do the ROI math, the return on investment. A cloud POS system runs anywhere from $69 to $165 a month. QR code menus are only $30 to $100 a month, which the guide claims provides an immediate return.
It does.
But the number that stops me in my tracks is the AI voice ordering for phones and drive-thrus. It costs between $250 and $1,000 a month. But the source drops this staggering metric. If a restaurant staff spends more than 2 hours a day on the phone taking orders or answering questions, the AI voice system pays for itself within 6 months.
It is a remarkable statistic that perfectly illustrates the value of automation. Time is quite literally money in a restaurant.
Let's actually do the math on that. Wait, 2 hours a day on the phone. If you are paying a host or a cashier $15 an hour, that is $30 a day just to hold a plastic receiver to their ear. Over a 30-day month, that is nearly $900 you are spending just to have someone say, please hold or write down an address. Suddenly, spending $250 a month on an AI voice system isn't some futuristic luxury. It is a massive, immediate cost-cutting tool.
When you look at the raw data, the decision becomes undeniable.
But I do want to challenge one of the costs here. Let's talk about the kiosks. The source says self-service touchscreen kiosks cost between $2,000 and $10,000 upfront per unit.
Yeah, that's a big number.
Here's where it gets really interesting. 10 grand is a massive, potentially crippling hit for a mom-and-pop diner. Does this ecosystem ultimately leave small restaurants behind? Are we just creating a two-tiered world where only massive corporate chains can afford to be efficient?
It is a very valid concern to have, but the 2026 data actually points to the opposite reality. This technology is fundamentally modular and highly scalable. A small independent joint does not need to buy the $10,000 freestanding kiosk.
They don't.
No. As the guide points out, they can start by deploying 50-cent QR code stickers on their tables and paying $150 a month for a first-party online ordering platform. They can achieve 80% of the speed and accuracy benefits without the massive capital expenditure. Automation is highly democratic now.
So it's less like buying a massive, expensive freight train and more like buying a set of Lego bricks. You just snap on the pieces you can actually afford right now and maybe add the kiosk next year.
That is exactly how the smartest operators are treating it. You scale the technology only as your revenue scales.
Okay, we have painted a pretty incredible picture of efficiency, but implementing complex technology into a chaotic physical environment is never flawless. Let's dive into the traps and landmines. What happens when a restaurant rushes this process and trips over the wires?
It can be catastrophic for the business. The source highlights several common landmines, and the first one loops back to that foundational menu we discussed. The foundation failure.
Okay, the foundation failure.
If you try to deploy all this fancy automation before thoroughly cleaning up your digital menu data, the entire ecosystem collapses.
It's like putting bad gas into a Ferrari.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how fast the engine is, it isn't going to run.
Precisely. If your digital menu has missing items, outdated pricing, or confusing modifier rules, every single connected system fails simultaneously. The kiosk overcharges the customer, the kitchen display screen shows conflicting instructions, and you create more problems than you started with.
That sounds like a mess.
And then there is the silo effect. Remember the central nervous system analogy?
Yeah, the brain and the muscle.
Right. If a restaurant tries to save money by purchasing a bunch of cheap, disconnected software tools that don't natively integrate, say, a third-party kiosk that doesn't talk directly to the kitchen display screen, you have essentially severed the spinal cord. Orders get lost in the digital void, tickets get duplicated, and staff have to manually retype data from one screen to another. It defeats the entire purpose of automating in the first place.
Oh man, I can just vividly imagine the nightmare scenario. Picture a busy Friday night dinner rush. You got an iPad flashing with online orders, the main POS system is blaring an alarm, paper backup tickets are literally jamming in the printer because the kiosk isn't synced properly, and you have an angry customer at the counter demanding a refund for an order that accidentally fired twice.
It happens more often than you'd think.
Which brings up the final, and maybe most important, landmine the guide mentions, the human element, skipping staff training.
It is the most common and critical error an owner can make.
Because if the staff has not been rigorously trained on how to handle exceptions, like how to cancel that accidental double order or how to process a digital refund when the system glitches, they end up fighting the technology instead of wielding it. They view the screen as an enemy.
Absolutely.
So what does this all mean? It means the tech is only as good as the humans operating it. If you don't empower your people through training, your brilliant tech ecosystem just becomes a very expensive anchor dragging the restaurant down.
It absolutely does. And this raises an important question, especially when we look at the final massive trap the guide warns about, the third-party trap.
The third-party trap.
Yes. This is the danger of over-relying on third-party delivery marketplace apps. Sure, these giant platforms can drive a massive volume of orders to a restaurant, but they routinely charge predatory commission fees of 15 to 30% on every single order.
30%.
Yeah.
That is absurd. In an industry where a 10% profit margin is considered a massive runaway success, handing over 30% to a delivery app means you are essentially losing money every time someone orders your food.
Right.
It forces the restaurant to artificially hike up their online prices, which just punishes the customer.
It destroys margins and damages trust. And really, it's about who actually owns the customer relationship. If you rely solely on a third-party app, that app owns your customer data. They know what the customer likes, they own their email address, and they control the marketing.
You're just renting the customer from them.
Exactly. The ultimate goal of building this automated ecosystem, using tools like Now to build your own first-party ordering, is for the restaurant to reclaim its independence. You keep your profit margin, and you own the data, allowing you to market directly to the people who actually love your food.
It is entirely about taking the power back and owning your own digital real estate.
Yeah.
Well, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. To recap the journey of this deep dive, the fundamental message from the 2026 landscape is crystal clear. Restaurant automation is no longer a question of if, but when.
Yep, it's inevitable.
From meticulously digitizing the core menu, to deploying AI voice assistants that save thousands in labor costs, to seamless kitchen displays that kill the paper ticket. It is entirely about removing repetitive, error-prone work so that staff can actually focus on the human element that matters: hospitality.
That is the ultimate takeaway, and the source material sums it up perfectly with this quote. The restaurants winning in 2026 aren't necessarily the ones with the best food. They're the ones combining great food with smart systems.
It is an incredibly powerful combination. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We have spent the last 15 minutes talking about how these brilliant automated systems track what we order, when we order, and what AI visual upsells we fall for. They know exactly how to present that glowing picture of a milkshake to bypass your willpower and get you to click Add to Cart. So the next time you walk into your favorite local spot and scan that QR code, consider this. Is the restaurant's technology serving you, or is a deeply trained algorithm just predicting exactly what you'll crave before you even sit down at the table? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, stay curious, and we'll catch you next time.